Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So Ralph Northam, the gentleman in the picture, won the gubernatorial election in Virginia. Ralph Northam beat Ed Gillespie, riding a wave of the Democrats, including Democratic Socialists. And if I'm not mistaken, Democrats have taken the state legislature. I think it's by one seat, but ultimately they've taken the state legislature. Now, Northam, even though he was running as a Democrat, he was so conservative. Republicans apparently had tried to talk to him in order to get him to switch sides. But yes, he was running as a Democrat. I didn't vote for Ralph Northam. Ralph Northam to me is a political thumb. He's just a random person that they put in that particular spot that wasn't a Republican. They just wanted to keep a D beside their name. I care about more than just putting a D beside the name. I care actually about the things that the person is going to do in that office. And in no way could I look at that political thumb and figure out what he was going to do in that office. And if he wasn't going to represent my interests, he wasn't going to get my vote. After recent news that's broken, I'm pretty happy with that vote. Let me show you one of his campaign ads, and then I'm going to tell you the news that broke maybe about a week ago. All right, Ralph, tell him about yourself. Distinguish yourself as something other than political.
When you work at a children's hospice, people ask you, how can you possibly do this? And we say, how can we not? If these kids go through what they go through, we can support them. Dr. Ralph Northam has been our volunteer medical director for the last 18 years. He's made such a difference in so many families' lives.
You know, these kids have given me more than I can ever give them. And I want to make sure that every family in Virginia can afford good health care when they need it.
His love in the corner. This is love. Oh, this is love. Oh, he's such a sweet man. He's a sweet man. I mean, he has a kid with cancer in his video. I mean, the kid has a fucking scar on her head. I mean, Grant, you gotta vote for him, right? This kid with cancer, he cares about healthcare. He's a doctor. He cares about healthcare. So this was a story that came out. Let's see. This is the Washington Post. Washington Post covers this. I mean, the point is all the way at the very bottom of the article there. The pertinent piece in this article is all the way at the bottom. But Democratic winner of Virginia says it's time for bipartisanship. Okay, I have no idea what that means. And then you get to the bottom and you figure out a little bit more what that means. So the guy who was running as a Democrat, who for the most part was so conservative that the Republican Party was actually trying to pull him over to the Republican Party, and that all of these lefties got behind and said, oh my God, we got to vote for him. We got to vote for him. We got to put him in that office. We got to put him in that office. He is a political thumb. Ultimately, he is just a placeholder. He is nothing distinctive about him at all. Ultimately, he is a Democrat who just got put in that place. What does it matter if he's not going to toe a particular line that you yourself want? If he's not going to represent your interests, what does it matter if he has a D beside his name? What does it matter? Barack Obama, whatever you want to say about the Affordable Care Act, he was a Democrat. He passed the Affordable Care Act. It was the first healthcare plan that we've had in this country, and at the very least broke the mold from what Americans believe that they could attain with regards to healthcare. Meaning that, yes, it's a stepping stone to single payer, but at the very least, the water broke. The water broke. As a Democrat, passing this particular healthcare plan and having all of these other Democrats lined up behind this healthcare plan, supporting their particular guy, you would think that if Virginia changes from Republican to Democrat, that one of the things that the Democratic incumbent that's coming into office would support would be the expansion of Medicaid. That's fundamental to what the other Democratic president put in place. Meaning you would think it would be natural as natural can be for a Democrat to come in and say, I'm going to expand Medicaid because my president, the person who's in my party, passed the Affordable Care Act, and I want to make sure that I can expand coverage to the majority or to the maximum number of people that I can expand coverage to in this state. That's what you would think. That would seem just basic common knowledge. I mean, guy, he's a Democrat. Obama was a Democrat. Both of them, everybody's been pushing the Affordable Care Act. I just looked at a commercial where he's talking to a kid with cancer, telling me about how much he cares and loves healthcare. Washington Post. It has been widely assumed that Northam is considering such a move, with Republicans holding a 21-19 edge in state Senate and incoming Lieutenant Justin Fairfax, a Democrat, in a position to be tiebreaker votes. By the way, this was maybe a couple of weeks ago. The tiebreakers went the Democrats' way, and if I'm not mistaken, Democrats either have a tie or a one-seat majority. I have to let our people know that I will work with the legislature that was elected by the people, he said. I'm not approaching anybody in the Senate or the House. Similarly, Northam said he has no plans to try to force Republicans to accept a broad expansion of Medicaid. Instead, he has begun talks with lawmakers in both parties about overhauling the state's Medicaid system to expand access in health care while better defining eligibility to control costs. Outgoing Governor Terry McAuliffe tried every year to push the legislature to accept millions in federal money to expand the health care program for hundreds of thousands of low-income Virginians. Northam campaigned heavily on the promise of getting more Virginians access to health care. He said Friday he remains committed to that pledge, but that it must be careful about the obligating the state to escalating cost. Under the program, the federal government pays the lion's share of the early years, but the state contribution gradually increases. So, yes, that is true. That is true. It does increase. I mean, Obamacare was a horrible idea. It's a Republican right-wing healthcare plan. I mean, what do you expect? It's not necessarily going to work all that well. When do you know Republicans to be the party that you go to figure out social programs? I mean, come on. The idea is utopian. Obama put this thing in office and gave the states left holding the bag after, 10 years or so. Put that to the side for the moment. It's kind of besides the point. You ran on this idea of Medicaid expansion. The people in your party was pushing Obamacare, and Terry McAuliffe, the outgoing governor, has tried to push the expansion of Medicaid ever since he's been in office because he understood something fundamental. If you're talking about health care, it is as natural can be for a Democrat coming into office, winning an election, from people coming out supporting Democrats to putting you in that office and to putting the other Democrats in that office and putting those Democrats in a position to pass policy that those Democrats will want. And I will guarantee you one of those things would be the expansion of Medicaid. If you're running campaign ads talking about healthcare, I will guarantee you that the bulk of the people who knew anything about Obamacare and who was placing a vote for you thought, at the very least, if this political thumb is not going to do anything else, at the very least, this political thumb would toe the party line and expand Medicaid so more people in the state can get access to health care. I voted for the Libertarian candidate in this election. This is the first time I've ever voted for a Libertarian candidate. I had no intention of that Libertarian candidate winning. I didn't want him to win. Democrats should not be rewarded for shit like this. They should not be rewarded. And you've elected somebody who, again, I would say is a political thumb. You've heard people say, has a face like a thumb. He is a political thumb. You voted for him because he wasn't the other guy. Now, this guy is in this office. And I would guarantee you the one thing that you thought he was going to do, he's now backpedaling on. Doug in Alabama, I would guarantee you he's going to toe the same line. When people are telling me that we should support Democrats, when people are telling me we should get behind Democrats, when, what's the other guy? The guy that this guy beat, coming behind saying we should support this particular Democrat. The point is not to put somebody in office with a D beside their name. For that matter, the point is not to put somebody in office with an R beside their name. The point is, what do you want the person to get accomplished in that office? And if the person is not going to get accomplished what you want that person to get accomplished, if the person is not even going to try, if you don't even know if the person has a bearing to try to get accomplished what you want him to get accomplished. This guy's in here talking about fiscal responsibility. He's a Democrat and is not supporting the Medicaid expansion. Now, either he's weak or, for the most part, he agrees with Republicans. In both of those cases, you've rewarded bad behavior. Good job. Good job. What is the lesson that Democrats are going to take from this? And do you believe you have any pull or leverage on this guy at all? You're going to get another rabid, batshit crazy Republican running against this particular governor, providing this particular governor doesn't do anything to get this governor taken out of his seat. And the argument is going to be the same. The argument is going to be the same. You have to vote for him because this guy's a maniac. You have to vote for him. This guy's a maniac. It doesn't matter what Democrat it is. As long as it's D beside his name, you have to vote for him because the other guy is a maniac. I am asking a fundamental question. At which point do you get sick of putting political thumbs in office? And at which point do you actually want somebody to represent your interests? And at any point, is the Democratic Party going to be pushed or leveraged to represent your interests if they know that you're always going to be complicit with any random political thumb that they give you, providing there's enough of a batshit crazy Republican on the side that makes this particular guy, the least worse? And mind you, that doesn't always work. The least worst thing doesn't always work. You were able to get a political win. Under normal circumstances, this guy might have lost. This guy might have lost. This was supposed to be actually a close contest. It ended up being not so close. But there was this wave of politics. I mean, Virginia is somewhat of a blue state at this point. You had a bunch of people who were freaked out with Donald Trump, and Gillespie gets out there and started talking this kind of dog whistle stuff. So yeah, he failed miserably, and you got the political thumb in that office. And now that political thumb is not even in office yet, and he's already backpedaling on some of the things that he talked about during the campaign trail. And look, I guarantee you, what he would say is, I never said I was going to expand Medicaid. I just said I was going to expand access. That is true. He never said he was going to expand Medicaid. At least I don't think he did. It's kind of a moot point. He fully understood what other people thought he meant. He knew what people thought he meant. Congratulations. You got the Democrat you voted for. So let's see you hold him accountable with the next batshit crazy Republican that this guy runs against. I will leave it at that. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, guys.